She laughed at my steel-toed boots in her first meeting. I'd built every load-bearing wall in the building she was standing in. Not a figure of speech. I mean, literally everyone. The lobby columns rated for 4,200 pounds per square inch. The parking structure that cantilevers 38 feet over the east retention pond. The third-floor transfer beam that carries the mechanical penthouse load, because the original architect miscalculated the dead weight by 11 tons, and I caught it at 2 in the morning on a Tuesday, 3 weeks before the pour. I poured the foundation she was standing on. I set the rebar cage she walked over every morning in her heels that cost more than my truck payment. And in her first executive meeting, with 16 people sitting around that mahogany table, she looked down at my Red Wings, wrinkled her nose, and laughed. Not even a mean laugh. That's what got me. It was dismissive. The kind of laugh you give a dog that doesn't know it's not allowed on the couch anymore. That was 18 months ago. Tuesday at 10:15 a.m., she fired me. My name is Dwight Osgood. I'm 54 years old. I spent 9 years in the United States Navy, Seabees, Construction Battalion, where I made Chief Petty Officer and specialized in structural engineering and expedient construction. That means when a bridge got blown up in a place most people can't find on a map, my team rebuilt it, under fire, with whatever materials we had, and it held. After the Navy, I spent 4 years as an independent structural contractor. Small jobs, commercial renovations, municipal work, good work, honest work, the kind of work where your name is your resume. Then, in June of 2001, Howard Penfield hired me. Handshake deal. Looked me in the eye across his desk in a trailer on a job site that smelled like diesel and fresh lumber, and said, "Dwight, I need a man who builds things that don't fall down." I told him, that's the only kind of thing I know how to build. 23 years. I've been at Penfield Construction for 23 years. I've overseen every major commercial build in their portfolio. The Ridgemont office complex, the Harbor Point mixed-use development, the Eastview Medical Pavilion, that thin shell roof design that became Penfield's signature, the one that architectural magazines wrote about, the one that won Howard his Industry Lifetime Achievement Award. I designed the load distribution system that makes those roofs possible. Every single one. I missed my son Benjamin's 10th birthday because a parking garage on the Civic Center project started showing stress fractures in the post-tension slab at level 3. I got the call at 4:47 p.m. His party started at 5. Sarah had the cake. Dinosaurs. Benjamin wanted dinosaurs that year. I called her from the site. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "Just come home safe, Dwight." I didn't get home until 2 a.m. The slab held. Benjamin was asleep. The cake was in the fridge with one slice missing and a note in his handwriting that said, "Saved you the T-Rex piece, Dad." That note is still in my wallet. Sarah made sure of that. She put it in a little plastic sleeve so it wouldn't wear out. Sarah was always thinking ahead like that. Sarah died 4 years ago. Breast cancer. She was 48. I worked through her last round of chemo because Howard needed me on the Legacy Plaza project, and she told me to go. She told me to go. Those are the words I hear when I can't sleep. Benjamin is 22 now, finishing a civil engineering degree at State University. He's going to be better than me. He already is. If you've ever had a boss or been in a situation like this, hit that like button and subscribe. Now. Melissa Penfield, 29 years old, Northwestern MBA. Daughter of Howard Penfield, the man who shook my hand in that trailer 23 years ago. She showed up 18 months ago with a title that didn't exist before she needed it. Executive VP of Operations. She'd spent 15 months bouncing between the marketing department and finance. 15 months. I've had hard hats older than her tenure. But Howard loved his daughter, and Howard wanted his daughter in the business. And Howard made the kind of mistake that fathers make when they confuse love with judgment. Her first week, she called an all-hands meeting. I remember the smell of that conference room. Old coffee and new carpet. They'd renovated the executive floor. Her idea. Glass walls everywhere. She wanted transparency, she said. She stood at the front of the room in a blazer that probably cost $1,200, and slides projected on a screen behind her that said, Penfield 2.0, Optimization through Agile Infrastructure. I'm not making that up. That was the actual title. Fresh perspectives, she said. Scalable solutions. We need people who are adaptable, who think in terms of modernization, not maintenance. She looked right at me when she said maintenance. I was sitting in the third row. Steel-toed boots, Carhartt jacket, concrete dust on my collar from a site visit that morning where I'd caught a rebar spacing error that would have failed inspection and cost the company $340,000 in remediation. She smiled. That polished, perfect teeth smile. Veneers. Had to be. We're bringing Penfield into the future, she said. I didn't say anything. I never do. Over the next 18 months, I watched. She hired consultants, optimization consultants, workflow consultants, digital transformation consultants. She spent $2.1 million on a project management software platform that none of the foremen could use because it didn't account for field conditions, weather delays, or the fact that structural concrete doesn't care about your Gantt chart. She moved my office twice. First from the second floor to the basement, then from the basement to a shared workspace next to the copy room. She said it was about collaborative space utilization. The copy room smelled like toner and old carpet adhesive. I kept working. I kept running my sites. I kept my mouth shut. Then, one Thursday evening, I was walking back from the restroom. Her office door was cracked open. The hallway carried sound better than people realized. Always had. The HVAC ductwork runs right along the ceiling above that corridor, and sound travels through sheet metal like a whisper through a canyon. I heard her voice, and I heard Howard's. Dad, he's dead weight, she said. He's been here too long. He doesn't adapt. He doesn't even use the new platform. Howard's voice. Quieter. Tired. Dwight's the best structural man I've ever had. Melissa. He's a relic, Dad. He still carries a slide rule. He smells like wet concrete. The clients I'm courting want modern. They want polish. They don't want some guy in steel-toed boots who looks like he just crawled out of a foundation trench. Silence. He won't cause problems, she said. He's 54, widowed. He's not going to find another job paying what we pay him. He needs this. He'll fall in line or he'll leave quietly. I stood in that hallway for 11 seconds. I counted them. Navy habit. When you're under fire and you need to stay calm, you count. You breathe. You assess. 11 seconds. Then I walked away. That was 3 weeks before Tuesday. Tuesday at 10:15 a.m. The glass-walled boardroom. She'd redecorated it too. Track lighting. Some kind of abstract sculpture in the corner that looked like a chrome pretzel. The mahogany table was still there, though. Howard's original table, 20 feet long. I'd helped him move it in myself back in 2003. Melissa sat at the head of it, her MacBook Pro open in front of her. She didn't look up when I walked in. Manicured fingers on the keyboard. An HR rep stood behind her, clutching a tablet like she was watching someone pull the pin on a grenade. Dwight, Melissa said, still not looking up. Sit down. I sat. She closed the laptop, folded her hands, looked at me with that smile. The rehearsed one. We need people who are agile, Dwight. Not relics who still carry a slide rule and smell like wet concrete. Same words. Exact same words as the hallway. She'd been practicing. We've engaged a modern project management consultancy to oversee structural operations going forward. Their systems are scalable, cloud-based, and fully integrated with our new platform. We're moving in a direction that requires fresh perspectives. New energy. She slid a folder across the mahogany. Manila. I could see the tab. Termination. Osgood, D. Your position is being eliminated effective immediately. HR will process your final paycheck and benefits termination. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. We appreciate everything you've done for Penfield, Dwight. We really do." She said that last part the way someone says, "Bless your heart," at a funeral. The HR rep wouldn't make eye contact. She stared at her tablet. Her hands were shaking. I looked at the folder. I looked at Melissa. I looked at the mahogany table that I'd carried up 3 flights of stairs 21 years ago because the elevator wasn't installed yet. "I understand perfectly," I said. "My keys are on the desk." I reached down and picked up my hard hat. White, scuffed, 23 years of concrete dust and sun fade and job site rain. I set it on the mahogany table, right in front of her chrome pretzel sculpture. Then I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why, or beg for reconsideration, or tell her she was making a mistake. Navy taught me that. You don't argue with someone who's already decided. You assess, you adapt, you wait. I walked out of that glass-walled boardroom, down the hallway that carried sound too well, past the copy room that used to be near my office, past the elevator I'd helped install the shaft framing for, through the lobby with the 4,200 PSI columns. The security guard at the front desk was a kid named Tommy, who I'd given a ride home once when his car broke down in January. He looked at me like he was going to be sick. "It's all right, Tommy," I said. I pushed through the front doors into the parking lot. It was raining. Not hard, just enough to smell the concrete. That wet mineral smell that most people can't stand, and I've loved since I was 19 years old, setting foundations on the other side of the world. I got in my truck, sat there. Rain hitting the windshield. I didn't call anyone. I didn't hit the steering wheel. I didn't do any of the things you'd expect a man to do when he loses 23 years in a 15-minute meeting with a 29-year-old who's never poured a yard of concrete in her life. I just sat there, counting seconds, breathing. Then I pulled out my phone and called Miller. He picked up on the second ring. He always does. 9 years in the Seabees together. That kind of bond doesn't have a hold time. "Miller," I said. "It's Dwight." They pulled the trigger. 3 seconds of silence. "The daughter?" "The daughter. You still have the patent filing. Patent number 9,283,741. And the original employment contract. The one without Section 14. Miller exhaled, long and slow. The way a man does when he's been waiting for a phone call he hoped would never come but prepared for anyway. "Then she just made the worst decision of her career," he said. "Come by the office tomorrow. Bring everything." I hung up, started the engine. The rain kept falling on the windshield, streaking through the parking lot lights. 23 years. I pulled out of that lot at 10:47 a.m. on a Tuesday and didn't look back. Not once. Not at the building I'd built. Not at the columns I'd poured. Not at the lobby where my boot prints were still set in the original concrete from 2001, because Howard thought it was funny and told the crew to leave them. My boot prints are in that foundation, and she just fired the man who put them there. I drove to Miller's office the next morning, Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. His practice is on the 4th floor of a converted warehouse downtown. The kind of building where the elevator groans like it's thinking about retirement, and the hallways smell like old wood and printer ink. Miller was already waiting. 2 cups of black coffee on his desk. No cream, no sugar. We've been drinking it the same way since we were pulling 18-hour shifts building a temporary airfield in a place I still can't talk about. He looked the same as he always does. Lean. Sharp eyes behind wireframe glasses. The kind of lawyer who looks like he'd be equally comfortable in a courtroom or a foxhole, because he'd been in both. I set the folder on his desk. Everything. The original 2001 employment contract. My patent filing. The provisional application from 12 years ago. The full grant. Patent number 9,283,741. The correspondence with the USPTO. And the laptop. My personal laptop. The one I used to build the Osgood load distribution system on my kitchen table over the course of 14 months. On weekends. On vacation days. On nights when Sarah would bring me coffee at 1 a.m. and tell me I was going to ruin my eyes. Miller opened the contract first. Read it page by page. Took his time. I drank my coffee and waited. I'm good at waiting. He got to the end. Flipped back to the beginning. Read it again. Then he set it down. Dwight? Yeah. There's no Section 14. I know. There's no IP assignment clause. No employment for hire provision. No proprietary work product agreement. Nothing. I know. He leaned back in his chair, rubbed his jaw, looked at the ceiling like he was doing math in his head. Howard Penfield ran this company on handshake deals for 23 years. That's who Howard is. That's who Howard was. His daughter runs it now. And his daughter just fired the only man on Earth who owns the algorithm that certifies every thin shell structure in their active portfolio. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Miller picked up the patent filing, held it like it weighed something. And it did. 12 years of my life. Every formula. Every load variable. Every calculation that makes Penfield's signature roof design possible. The Osgood Load Distribution System. OLD. That's what the engineers called it. Fitting, I suppose. The old system was developed on your personal equipment, Miller said. My kitchen table. My laptop. My time. On your own hours. Weekends. Evenings. Vacation days. And they never asked you to assign it. Howard never thought about it. He trusted me. I trusted him. That was enough. It was enough for Howard, Miller said. It's not enough for a courtroom, and it's damn sure not enough for his daughter. He opened his desk drawer, pulled out a legal pad, started writing. Here's what we do. I draft a cease and desist. Formal notification that patent 9,283,741, the Osgood load distribution algorithm, is your exclusive intellectual property. Any continued use by Penfield Construction without a licensing agreement constitutes infringement. They have to stop using your calculations on every active build. Immediately. How long before it hits? Miller looked at me over his glasses. Dwight, they can't certify a single structural inspection without your math. Every active job site that uses the thin shell design, which is what? All of them? 3 active sites. $128 million total. 3 sites. $128 million. And the city requires structural certification before they sign off on inspections. Without the OLD system, their engineers can't produce the documentation the city needs. The permits freeze. The contractors file breach claims. The whole thing unravels. He clicked his pen. It hits the moment the next inspection comes due. When is that? Site 1. Ridgemont South. 14 days. 14 days. Miller wrote it down. Then we send the cease and desist now. Today. Certified return receipt. And then you go do whatever it is you do when you're not holding up buildings. I have a cabin. Go to the cabin. I was planning on it. Don't answer your phone. I looked at him. Miller, I spent 9 years in the Seabees. I know how to maintain radio silence. He almost smiled. Almost. Miller doesn't waste smiles any more than he wastes words. I signed what needed signing. He notarized what needed notarizing. The cease and desist went out that afternoon. Wednesday at 3:22 p.m. certified mail. Return receipt requested. Addressed to Penfield Construction, attention legal department. Then I drove north. The cabin is 2 hours outside the city. Sits on a lake. Nothing fancy. 3 rooms. A dock that needs restaining. A wood stove I rebuilt myself after Sarah said the old one smoked too much. She only came up twice. She preferred the house. But she liked knowing I had a place to go. I got there Wednesday evening. Turned off my phone. Not silenced. Off. put it in the kitchen drawer next to the flashlight batteries and a cribbage board Sarah bought at a yard sale in 2014. Then I went fishing. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I caught trout. I cleaned them on the dock. I cooked them on a cast iron skillet with butter and lemon and salt and ate them at the table by the window, looking out at the water. I didn't think about Penfield construction. I didn't think about Melissa Penfield's chrome pretzel sculpture or her $1,200 blazer or the way she said relic, like she was describing something in a museum she was bored of visiting. I didn't think about the glass-walled boardroom or the manila folder or the HR reps shaking hands. I thought about Sarah, about Benjamin, about the way a trout fights when it knows it's hooked, and how you have to be patient. Keep the line taut. Let it tire itself out. Navy taught me that too. Not the fishing, the patience. The understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just wait. Let the structure bear the weight it was designed to bear. And when the structure was never designed to bear it in the first place, let it fail. Physics doesn't negotiate. 14 days after my termination, the first inspection came due. I wasn't there for it, of course, but Ellis told me later. Ellis is 32, junior foreman, good kid, works hard, gets his hands dirty. The kind of man Melissa Penfield would call outdated in 5 years when she ran out of people like me to fire first. Ellis called Miller. Miller called Ellis. Information moved through back channels the way it always does in construction. Guys talk. Foremen talk. Nobody trusts email, and everybody trusts the man who showed up when the slab was cracking. Here's what happened. The city inspector arrived at the Ridgemont South site on a Tuesday, 2 weeks to the day after my termination. He needed the structural certification package for the Level 4 thin shell roof pour. Standard procedure. The package includes load calculations, deflection analysis, stress distribution modeling, and the engineer's seal confirming the design meets code. Every single one of those calculations was generated by the OLD system, my system, the Osgood Load Distribution Algorithm, patent number 9,283,741. The project management consultancy Melissa had hired, a firm called Apex Structural Solutions out of Chicago, had been on site for 11 days. They had 6 engineers. They had cloud-based software. They had tablets and drones and 3D modeling rigs that cost more than my truck. They could not read the files. We can't interpret these calculations, the lead engineer told the site manager. They're generated by a proprietary system we don't have access to. The formulas aren't standard. The notation is custom. We'd need the original algorithm to verify anything. The site manager called Melissa. Melissa called Apex. Apex called their home office. Their home office spent 3 days trying to reverse engineer 12 years of my work. 3 days, 6 engineers, cloud-based software, tablets and drones, and 3D modeling. They couldn't do it. The OLD system isn't a spreadsheet. It's not a plug-and-play template. It's a ground-up mathematical framework built on principles I learned setting bridge foundations under conditions that would make their cloud-based software weep. Every formula accounts for variables that commercial software doesn't even track. Thermal expansion in asymmetric shell geometries, micro-deflection in cantilevered overhangs under dynamic wind load, soil settlement differentials specific to each site's geotechnical survey. You can't reverse engineer 23 years of field experience and 9 years of military engineering compressed into an algorithm that lives in a patent I own. The city inspector failed the Ridgemont South site. No certified structural package. No approval, no approval, no pour. No pour, the general contractor's schedule slips by 3 weeks minimum. The GC filed a delay claim against Penfield for $1.4 million. That was day 14. By day 21, the second site failed. Harbor Run, same problem, same missing calculations. Same consultancy, standing around with their tablets looking at files they couldn't open like archaeologists staring at hieroglyphics. The city pulled Penfield's permits on both sites. Pending structural review. Pending proof of calculation methodology. Pending a licensed professional engineer who could actually certify the work. By day 28, the third site froze. All three. $128 million. Frozen. The general contractors filed breach of contract suits. Two of them. Combined exposure, north of $8 million in delay damages and liquidated penalties. And somewhere in a glass-walled office on the executive floor that I helped frame 21 years ago, Melissa Penfield was starting to understand what she'd actually done. Ellis told me the scene. He was on site at Ridgemont South when the permits got pulled. He watched the consultancy pack up their equipment, 6 engineers, loading their rigs into a van. One of them was shaking his head. "We told her," the engineer said to no one in particular. "We told her we couldn't replicate the methodology without the source algorithm. She said it was a clerical issue." A clerical issue. She called the OLD system, 12 years of proprietary mathematics protected by a United States patent, a clerical issue. The call started on day 15, right after the first failed inspection. I know because when I finally turned my phone on, 3 months later, I had 142 missed calls from Melissa Penfield's number. 142. The voicemail started professional. "Dwight, this is Melissa. We have a technical situation I'd like to discuss. Please call me at your earliest convenience." By day 20, the tone shifted. "Dwight, I need you to call me back. There's been a misunderstanding regarding some proprietary files, and we need to resolve this." By day 28, the mask was gone. "Dwight, you need to call me. Now. Our legal department received a cease and desist from your attorney, and I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but this company built those systems, not you, and we will pursue legal action if you don't." That one cut off. Voicemail limit. I sat on the dock. It was a Thursday evening, late September. The lake was still. The kind of still where you can see the tree line reflected so perfectly, it looks like the world has a twin underneath it. I listened to every single voicemail. All 142. Took me 45 minutes. Then I set the phone down on the dock beside me. The last voicemail was from 2 days ago. Her voice was different. Smaller. The buzzwords were gone. The optimization and the agile and the scalable solutions. All gone. "Dwight, please, I need your help. The city is threatening to revoke our contractor's license. We have $42 million in penalties and lost contracts. Please call me back." I looked at the phone. I picked it up, and I turned it off. Click. The man who drove up my gravel road on a Saturday morning in October was not the Howard Penfield I remembered. The Howard Penfield who hired me in 2001 filled a room. Big hands. Big voice. The kind of man who poured his own coffee on job sites and knew every foreman's wife's name. He'd built Penfield Construction from a 2-truck operation into a $200 million commercial builder. And he'd done it the old way. Handshake deals, eye contact. Your word means something, or get off my site. The man who stepped out of the Lincoln Town car at the end of my dock looked 10 years older than 68. His shoulders were wrong, rounded, caved in. He was wearing a polo shirt and khakis, and his shoes were wrong for the terrain. Loafers. City shoes on gravel and pine needles. He stood there for a moment, looking at the cabin like he wasn't sure he had the right place. Then he saw me. I was on the dock, cleaning a trout. A brown trout, maybe 2 pounds, caught about an hour earlier on a size 14 elk hair caddis in the shallows near the fallen birch on the north bank. The fillet knife was sharp. The cutting board was cedar. The morning was cold enough to see your breath, but not cold enough to keep you inside. Rex was lying next to me. He lifted his head when the car door closed, looked at Howard, looked at me, put his head back down. He knew. Howard walked down to the dock. Slow. Each step deliberate, like a man approaching a conversation he'd been rehearsing in his head for 100 miles. He stopped 6 feet away. Dwight. Howard. I didn't stop cleaning the trout. Didn't look up. The knife moved along the spine. Clean. Precise. You learn how to fillet in the Navy when fresh protein is the difference between morale and mutiny. He stood there. I could feel him trying to figure out how to start. I let him. Silence is a tool. 9 years in the Seabees taught me that. 23 years at Penfield confirmed it. You look good, he said. I eat a lot of fish. He almost laughed. Caught it. Swallowed it. Looked out at the lake. Dwight, I need to talk to you. I figured. It's a 2-hour drive. The company is in trouble. I set the knife down. Wiped my hands on the towel draped over the dock rail. Looked at him for the first time. He looked like a man who'd been carrying a building on his back and just realized there was no foundation underneath him. I know, I said. You know. $42 million in lost contracts and penalties. 3 frozen sites. 2 breach of contract suits from general contractors. City threatening to revoke your contractor's license. And 6 engineers from a consultancy in Chicago who spent 3 weeks trying to reverse engineer 12 years of my math and couldn't crack the first formula. Howard closed his eyes. I didn't know, he said, about the firing. Not until 2 weeks after. She told me you retired. Voluntarily. She said you wanted to spend time at the cabin. That you were tired. She told you I was tired. She told me you were tired, Dwight. I looked at the lake. The surface was glass. Absolutely still. The kind of morning where the world holds its breath. I didn't leave the company, Howard. I picked up the trout fillet, placed it in the cooler beside me, closed the lid. Your daughter evicted the foundation. You know what happens to buildings without a foundation. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. He'd been in construction for 40 years. He knew exactly what happens. You get cracks first. Hairline. Easy to miss. Then settlement. Uneven loads. Doors that don't close right. Windows that bind. Then one day, you hear a sound that no amount of money or consultants or cloud-based software can fix. The sound of something structural giving way. She called me outdated infrastructure, I said, in the same boardroom where you and I planned the Ridgemont complex. At the same mahogany table, I carried up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator wasn't framed yet. Howard sat down on the edge of the dock. Uninvited. I didn't stop him. I let family cloud my business judgment, he said. I put my daughter in a position she wasn't ready for, and I didn't supervise the transition because I trusted the name on the door more than I trusted the people behind it. She fired me because my boots had concrete dust on them, Howard. I know. She called the OLD system a clerical issue. He put his head in his hands. We sat there for a while. Rex shifted, pressed his weight against my leg. Dogs know when something fundamental has changed. They don't need spreadsheets or org charts. They just know. What do you want, Dwight? I looked at him. I want to do this right. Howard Penfield flew back to the city that afternoon. I stayed at the cabin one more night. Cooked the trout. Poured 3 fingers of Blanton's. Not the daily drinker. The bottle Sarah gave me for our 20th anniversary. 3 months before the diagnosis. I'd been saving it for something, and I decided that a man reclaiming 23 years of his life qualified. I sat on the back deck, Rex at my feet. The sun was going down behind the tree line, painting the lake copper and amber. I sipped the bourbon. Smooth. Warm. The kind of warmth that doesn't come from alcohol. It comes from knowing that the thing you built can't be replaced by a 6-person team with drones. The board meeting was Thursday at 2 p.m. Miller drove down from his office. We arrived together. Same building. Same lobby with the 4,200 PSI columns. Same elevator shaft I'd helped frame. The security guard at the front desk was Tommy. Same kid. He saw me come through the front doors. His eyes went wide. "Mr. Osgood." "Tommy." "They're waiting for you upstairs. Conference room B." "I know." I was wearing my steel-toed boots, the same Red Wings she'd wrinkled her nose at 18 months ago. Concrete dust on the left toe from the last site visit I'd done before she terminated me. I hadn't cleaned them, hadn't even considered it. The boardroom was full. 8 board members seated around the mahogany table. Howard at the head, where Melissa usually sat. General counsel, a man named Crawford, who'd been with the company for 15 years and looked like he hadn't slept in a month, stood near the window with a legal pad and the expression of a man watching a controlled demolition. Melissa was there, seated halfway down the table. She wasn't at the head. Not today. Her MacBook was closed. Her hands were flat on the mahogany, and her manicured nails weren't tapping. They were still. The kind of still that comes from knowing the room has already decided. There was a chair reserved at Howard's right hand, a nameplate in front of it. Small, brass, new, Dwight Osgood, partner. I sat down, set my folder on the table. Miller sat beside me. Nobody spoke for 4 seconds. I counted. Howard cleared his throat. This meeting is called to address the operational crisis resulting from decisions made without full board authorization. Specifically, the termination of Dwight Osgood on Tuesday, June 18th at 10:15 a.m. and the resulting loss of access to patent number 9,283,741, which is the sole methodology capable of certifying structural integrity for all Penfield thin-shell commercial designs. Crawford stood, opened his folder, read aloud. The original 2001 employment contract between Penfield Construction and Dwight Osgood contains no Section 14, no IP assignment clause, no employment for hire provision, no proprietary work product agreement. The OLD system was developed on Mr. Osgood's personal equipment, on his personal time, using his own proprietary formulas. Patent 9,283,741 was filed and granted in Mr. Osgood's name. The company has no legal claim to the algorithm. He paused, looked at Melissa. The termination was executed without board approval, without legal review, and without any assessment of the intellectual property implications. The cease and desist issued by Mr. Osgood's counsel is legally sound. We have no standing to challenge it. Melissa's jaw tightened. She looked at her father. "Dad, this is Melissa." Howard's voice was quiet, final, the voice of a man who builds things that don't fall down. "Don't." She stopped. Howard turned to the board. "I'm calling for a vote. Effective immediately, Melissa Penfield is removed from her position as Executive VP of Operations. Dwight Osgood is reinstated and elevated to partner with a 15% equity stake. Additionally, $4.2 million in backdated performance bonuses covering the full duration of Mr. Osgood's tenure will be paid within 60 days. He looked around the table. All in favor. 8 hands went up. Every single one. 8-0. Howard looked at his daughter. "I'm sorry, Melissa, but this is bigger than family." She stood up. Her chair scraped against the floor. The sound was sharp in that quiet room. She looked at me. I expected anger. I expected the buzzwords, the deflection, the corporate vocabulary she'd wrapped around herself like armor for 18 months. Instead, I saw something I hadn't expected. She looked young, 29 years old, standing in a room full of people who'd just told her the truth no one had ever told her before, that a title isn't competence, that a name on a door isn't the same as boot prints in the foundation. She picked up her MacBook, walked to the door, stopped. She didn't look back. The door closed behind her. The room exhaled. Crawford approached the table with the partnership documents. Miller reviewed them. I signed. Howard signed. The board members signed as witnesses. When it was done, Howard extended his hand across the mahogany table. The same hand that shook mine in a construction trailer in June of 2001. I took it. Welcome back, Dwight. I never left Howard. I was just waiting for the foundation to settle. That evening, I drove to Benjamin's apartment near State University. He opened the door in a t-shirt and jeans, textbook open on the kitchen counter behind him. Structural dynamics, third-year coursework. Dad, what are you doing here? Thought I'd take you to dinner. He looked at me. Really looked. The way Sarah used to look at me when she could tell something had shifted but didn't want to push. You seem different, he said. Less heavy. Like something let go. Something did. We went to a diner. Vinyl booths, old waitress named Dot who called everyone Han and poured coffee before you asked. I ordered the meatloaf. Benjamin ordered a burger. We talked about his coursework, about his senior project, about the job offers he was starting to get. There's a position at Penfield, I said. If you're interested, when you're ready. He looked at me. You'd want me there? I'd want you to earn it. Start on site. Concrete dust. Steel-toed boots. Learn every load-bearing wall from the ground up. He smiled. Sarah's smile. The real one. Yeah, he said. I think I'd like that. I got home late. The house was quiet. Rex met me at the door, tail going. I let him out. Poured 3 fingers of bourbon. Stood on the back deck. The city lights were out there. Somewhere in that skyline, buildings I'd built were holding weight, bearing loads, standing up against gravity and wind and time because the math was right, and the man who did the math gave a damn. Melissa Penfield left the company the following week. No LinkedIn post. No farewell email. Ellis told me she enrolled in a structural engineering certificate program at the community college 2 months later. I don't know if that's true. I hope it is. The 3 sites unfroze within 10 days of my return. I recertified every calculation personally. The city restored Penfield's permits. The general contractors settled their breach claims. The penalties came to $42 million total, but the work resumed, and the buildings went up, and the roofs held. They always hold when the math is right. Benjamin graduated in the spring. I was there. Front row. Steel-toed boots. Concrete dust on the left toe. He walked across that stage, and I clapped until my hands hurt, and I didn't miss a single second of it. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. It arrives quietly, with calm hands and steady resolve. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and ring that notification bell to get alerts about new stories like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.